By the time I turned 30, I owned 4 investment properties in Chicago that bring in consistent rental income every month. I didn't start with millions of dollars, and I wasn't born into a family of landlords. I just learned how to play the real estate game strategically, and today in this video I'm going to be walking through how I bought those 4 properties and how you can do the same. And I'll also share some of the mistakes I made along the way so you can avoid them. If we haven't met before, I'm Paul DeLuca. I'm a real estate agent and investor in Chicago. I specialize in helping people build their real estate portfolio and wealth in Chicago. And specifically, I help people do that using the house hacking strategy. I've personally used this strategy to go from 0 properties to 4 rentals in about 4 years, and I've helped dozens of clients use the same strategy. I didn't start with much cash or knowledge. Back in 2018, I was working in property management on the commercial side, and I knew I wanted passive income. I knew this job wasn't for me forever, and I need to start building wealth now. That's when I got interested in real estate investing, and that's how I learned about the Bigger Pockets podcast. And through the Bigger Pockets podcast, I learned about the strategy called house hacking. So if you're not familiar with house hacking, the strategy is essentially you buy a 2 to 4 unit multifamily property, you live in one unit, and you rent out the other units. And I was completely hooked when I heard about this idea. I was obsessed, and I knew I needed to implement this idea. So that's what I did. I went ahead and planned to use this strategy, and I used it to buy my first property. Fast forward to June 2019, I closed on my first house hack, a 2-flat in Berwyn, Illinois. It's a suburb just outside of Chicago. So I bought that property for $296,400. It was a really good entry-level property for me. I was getting some cash flow once I moved out, but I only put about $11,000 down to purchase that property in total. So that was a really great property. Didn't have to do too much to it. It was in pretty turnkey condition, and I got my first tenant. They were paying me about $1,550 in monthly rent. My mortgage payment was about $2,000 with PITI, and so that made a significant dent in my monthly housing expense. And that's lesson number 1 from my house hacking journey. You don't need a property that will completely cover your mortgage payment from the rents from the other units. You just need a property where you're going to significantly reduce your monthly housing expense by having your tenant at least help you severely reduce that mortgage payment. It's going to make a big dent in that, and that will help set you up for the second property, the third property, the fourth property. It really makes saving money a lot easier when you essentially recruit another person, a tenant, to help you pay for your own mortgage. Lesson number 2 from my house hacking journey is that you just need to buy into an area where there's strong rental demand. It doesn't need to be the flashiest zip code. It doesn't need to be the nicest or the most trendy. In October 2020, we bought our second house hack. It was another 2-flat in Berwyn. It was actually only a couple minutes away from our first house hack, so that was really convenient. Overall, I mean, it was very affordable. It was only about $266,000, and we put 5% down on that one, just like the first one. It was a Home Possible loan. I think all-in cash to purchase the property was about $7,000, so that was pretty amazing. And we got a nice little mortgage rate as well. The units were a little bit outdated. They needed some work, and we ultimately did do a cosmetic rehab of one of the units after we moved out of that unit. We didn't do much to the other one. That's been a great property for us. We've had very good tenants in Berwyn, so we've been fortunate with that too. We got our third house hack in May of 2022. This was a 3-unit in Belmont Cragen in Chicago. It's a neighborhood on the northwest side, and we bought it for $370,000. We used an FHA loan in my name, so it was only 3.5% down. We did put some money into the building. We used our own cash to do some cosmetic renovations to the unit. For example, we put in-unit laundry into the first floor unit, which we occupied, and then in units 2 and 3 on the second and third floor, we installed new vinyl plank flooring, and we also repainted the units. Quick aside, but we actually needed to do pretty significant cleaning and bed bug remediation in the second floor unit. The tenant actually abandoned the unit and left all their stuff there. So that was a fun experience to throw away all their stuff. After I repeatedly reached out to them to come pick up their things, and they just never replied to me, so we had to throw all that stuff away ourselves. So that was fun. All in, I think it was about $22,000 for cosmetic renovations. Everything else was in pretty good condition. I think the cash to close on that one, it was about $20,000. In June 2023, we bought our fourth house hack in Porch Park in Chicago. That one we bought for $405,000. And we got a renovation loan. We put 5% down at closing. The rehab cost was $89,000. And like I said, the purchase price was $405,000. Overall, we did some cosmetic rehab to the first floor unit and the basement unit. And we didn't really do much to the unit that we occupied. We also did do a little CapEx, replace some old AC units and furnaces. So that increased our budget a little bit. We've got very strong rents. We've had really great tenants. So yeah, we're definitely happy with the neighborhood and the overall improvements to the building and how the process went in general. So that's been our fourth house hack. And of course we want to buy more, but that is the latest one. The total amount of cash due at closing, it was about $34,000. So these are three key principles I've utilized in my house hacking journey. So number one is when purchasing these properties, we used low down payment financing, and we also included in our offer a large seller credit request. So that's a great tool to lower the amount of cash that you have to bring to closing. So I highly recommend that. Principle number two, we bought properties with cash flow potential, and then we rented those units to great tenants. Key principle number three is to keep personal expenses low during the growth phase. I've made my share of mistakes along my real estate journey. For our first property, we had a 4-month vacancy because we just overpriced the rent, so don't do that. And then we've also rented our properties to some bad tenants in a couple of cases, who, if we just screened more effectively, they never would have been tenants. We never would have rented to them. And then finally, early on, I didn't track rental property expenses as closely as I should have. The lesson is real estate is very forgiving if you buy right. But the key thing is you want to treat it like a business from day one. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's that you don't need a fortune to start investing in real estate. You just need a strategy and a plan and the discipline to actually implement that plan to buy your first property or keep scaling your portfolio. House hacking is an incredibly powerful strategy for building a real estate portfolio. And luckily for you, if you live in Chicago anyway, there are multi-units all over the place. If you're thinking about buying your first investment property, I actually created a Chicago house hacking guide. I made this about a year ago, and basically it just summarizes my personal experience house hacking and also what I've learned by helping other clients do the same thing. So if you want to pick that up, go ahead and click in the link in the description below. If you found this video helpful, please be sure to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more tips on building wealth in Chicago real estate.